Can I ask how on earth NVIDIA has done this? Can you please take us through what the heck is going on with NVIDIA?
Yeah.
It just doesn't stop.
No.
I don't get it, Hamish. I don't get it.
There's, NVIDIA's been one of those stocks or one of those companies that in 2024, every week or every other week, it seems like there's something crazy going on. And this week is no different. NVIDIA has surpassed Microsoft to become the most valuable company in the US. So well done to NVIDIA. They've been rocketing up the leaderboard over the last, maybe 24 months or so has really been where the stock has been really moving up pretty significantly. And they've done it. They're the top spot. So this actually came just a few days after they did a 10-to-1 stock split. So this was, I think, 4 days ago. The stock split 10-to-1. It was trading over $1,000 per share. And they decided to do a 10-to-1. So now it's back down to, I think it's like $123 per share. And what does that mean? It really doesn't mean anything. It's not like they're raising more capital. It just means that if you previously had 1 share of NVIDIA, you now have 10 shares. So it literally just splits the stock. And the reason they do this is, there's a couple of reasons. One is it's easier for people to trade in smaller amounts. But then also when it comes to a company allocating stock-based compensation to their staff, it makes it a little bit easier if they can kind of divide the shares up into smaller pieces. That makes sense. That's kind of generally why they do that. The stock has been doing pretty well. The stock's up 10% this week. It's up 43% in the last month, and it's up 173% year to date.
Oh my gosh. Hamish, we were saying that this stock looked ridiculously expensive like a year ago.
Yeah.
This is actually wild. Like, just reading that sentence, NVIDIA has surpassed Microsoft to become the most valuable company in the US. It's ridiculous. Like, I get it. Okay, yeah. If you're an NVIDIA bull, if you own NVIDIA, I get the rationale. AI, they're making the hardware. Everyone's buying from them. They're just selling out. They keep creating these new models, and people are just buying these GPUs like crazy. But you got to have a look at like the bottom lines of some of these. Like, if you look at the bottom lines of like Microsoft and Apple and all these other companies, and then NVIDIA, it's crazy. I did like a very rough discounted cash flow on NVIDIA just to see what they would have to do for the next 10 years. And I think I landed on like the previous 10 years they've grown, thanks to the recent surge, they've grown at like 30% per year. And I think they have to continue growing at 30% per year for the next 10 years to be even close to the market cap that they're at now.
Yeah, right. Wow.
And there's no margin of safety in that at all.
Yeah.
That is just bonkers.
Big expectations.
Of course, don't rely on that data. Don't rely on my analysis. Everybody should do their own analysis. But like, that was a very rough back of the napkin DCF discounted cash flow analysis. I couldn't believe it. I don't get it, Hamish. I don't get it.
No, well, it's absolutely insane. I don't get it either. I mean, especially from, a value investing perspective, it's, generally speaking, you're probably not going to be betting on the new technology because that's when it's all hyped and as you said, people are betting on big expectations. Not like it's not necessarily that they won't achieve that, but that's what's necessary of these huge. They really need to hit every mark in order for it to do well if you were buying it today. But the value of the company is now it's been over $3 trillion, but it's $3.34 trillion higher than Microsoft and Apple. And the crazy thing is, it's not like Microsoft and Apple have had bad years. Like, I think Microsoft's up 18% year to date, and Apple's up 11%. Like, both of those are
that's great.
6 months into the year. 6-month return, 20% or 18%. You'd take
Beautiful.
that. But yeah, NVIDIA up 173% year to date is why it's kind of risen past those two companies. It's actually the first time a company other than Microsoft and Apple has had that number one position since 2019. So it's been a while that Apple and Microsoft have been up there. And this, of course, all comes because, 2024 has been really a story of a handful of companies driving the market, particularly NVIDIA, but also Microsoft, Apple, Google, Meta, these companies that have or are expected to be the biggest beneficiaries of the AI boom. And I found something interesting about kind of looking at the composition of the S&P 500 that kind of really puts this point forward, that the S&P 500 really is kind of two separate markets at the moment. It's like the Magnificent Seven companies and then everyone else. And the best example of this is looking at the earnings growth, so the profit growth this year. Magnificent Seven companies have grown their profits 58% since November 2022. So this is actually over 2 years or a year and a half. The rest of the S&P 500 since November 2022, the last 18 months, I think that is, has earnings growth of negative 8.4%. So if you took the Magnificent Seven companies out of the S&P 500, then the biggest American companies are in an earnings recession since November 2022. So I think that gives you a perspective of how different, and of course, within the other companies, there's still lots of companies growing, and there's some that are, losing a lot of money.
Yep.
But you can really make that distinction where you've got these handful of tech companies that are really benefiting, and if you look at everything else, it's actually negative, which is kind of crazy.
That is kind of crazy. It's no other thing to say there, Hamish. That is kind of bonkers. Tale of, I was going to say tale of two halves, but it's not even like that.
No,
it's just seven at the top, and then 493 at the bottom.
yeah, exactly. I guess we'll see where it goes from here. The other thing I saw was that the concentration of the S&P 500 in those companies is the highest concentration the S&P 500 has had since the year 2000. So right around the internet bubble. It'll be interesting to see how all of this plays out. Certainly there's a lot of expectation on what AI is going to do for these companies.
Yep, that's bonkers. That is absolutely bonkers, Hamish.